Welcome everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. I'd like to thank you all for being here and the GMG group for asking me and giving me some time to present today. The presentation is going to be largely anecdotal, leaning on kind of the practical side of implementing a security awareness program, as opposed to the technical. Going through some of the challenges, lessons that I and Hudbay went through while implementing our security awareness program. So a quick about me. I'm the manager of IT security, compliance, and enterprise architecture with Hudbay, a bit of a mouthful. 15 plus years of experience in IT. Currently, my main accountability is to manage the risk associated with various information technology platforms and systems required by modern business. Physically located in northern Saskatchewan wilderness in Canada, close to our Flin Flon and Snow Lake operating mines. And an avid woodworking enthusiast, particularly enjoying using CNC, computer numerical control, within woodworking projects. Okay, so implementing an IT security and awareness program. Generally, it can be fairly easy. It's not rocket science to put some information together and distribute it to your employees and coworkers. Doing it successfully with some measurable results in a consistent and manageable way is the challenging part. I don't think it's surprising to hear that the communication was the biggest lesson learned, but possibly the various levels at which that needed to occur will provide some insight into your own implementations. Communication was key across all levels of our organization in getting the program to where it is today. I wouldn't say we were wildly successful in our implementation, but the program is making solid and measurable improvements across the company and our business units. The five main challenges, lessons, were in relation to some senior leadership support and gaining that. The focus on physical safety in a mining, manufacturing, industrial environment, and what that kind of means for IT security awareness. Competing time commitments, as always. And then the last two being kind of a why us from the employee's perspective for a program like this, and why Hudbay in general, the organization. Quick go through why of a cybersecurity program. IT traditionally is heavy in technical controls. We try to take the risk away from the end user. Whether that's through traditional antivirus programs and spam filters, newer technology, behavior analytics, endpoint detection response, EDR. There's a reliance on these platforms to sanitize everything before it gets to the user, so that they're not able to make a mistake and cause an incident. But more and more, we're finding that these solutions are not enough. No platform typically advertises itself as a 100% guarantee, because they can't. The landscape is constantly evolving. And even if a product can say that their solution will protect your digital assets 99% of the time, there's always that 1 in 100 chance, that 1 in 100 phishing email that may get through. And it's this area, kind of the last mile, the human firewall, the component of a digital solution that an IT security awareness program or platform aims to protect. Armed with even some basic training and awareness, our users, coworkers, employees, they're a huge part of a complete IT defensive strategy, defense in-depth program. So the points on the right or on the left there, typically heavy in technical controls. The unenforceable policies may attempt to replace some of these controls. The policies that, thou shalt not click bad links, or thou shalt not download bad program, which are great on paper, but hard to actually control that behavior. Untrained employees will rely on technical controls to protect them, versus using their own judgment in situations. The typical Tootsie Pop analogy. Employees can be that soft, chewy center on an otherwise, hard, crunchy exterior protected by technical controls. And in the end, costs are typically quite low compared to other technology integrations or technical controls. On the right here, just some standard stats that everybody's probably familiar with. And many of these could have been compensated for with expensive technical controls, but they do have a very human element to these as well, that training could have prevented some of these exposures. This slide here just shows kind of Hudbay's journey. Prior to 2018, there were occasional company-wide emails sent out on varying IT security topics. In 2018, we did our first company-wide global phishing test, relatively simple at that time. But those results, that 44% of users that had clicked on a link that they really shouldn't have, is what kicked off an increased diligence in security awareness. After that, we increased the frequency and type of communications. We included more detailed and real examples of phishing that were caught within Hudbay. And in Q3 of 2019, we started our formal testing and training platform. And since then, we've seen consistent drops in our phishing rates or phish-prone users, and an increase in reporting rates of potential phishing emails. Oops. So getting into the challenges and the lessons learned, just a quick minute on a non-challenge for Hudbay, but could be for others, would be the purchasing and budget approval process. We had no issues in explaining the value a program like this could be, and that would be the formal side of it. So budget approval was quite easy. Moving that part of it ahead was there were no issues. But sometimes organizations can find it challenging to articulate the benefits of information security projects, such as IT security awareness. A lot of times it can be seen as investment with no return. My common analogy, which I'm sure many others use, is the insurance industry. And no one generally enjoys paying for insurance, but if you're in a car accident or a fire or some other tragic event, everybody's glad that they have the insurance at that point. And that's what kind of investment in IT security can be seen as. So senior leadership support. This came in two parts for Hudbay's implementation. There was generally support at the corporate level, but less at the business unit level. I'll address the business unit level concerns in the time commitment section. Seeing an IT security program come not only from IT, but the business and its leadership as a whole is and was instrumental in a successful program. If the direction came only from myself or the IT department, it would either be seen as not aligned with the business or objectives, or just in general the business wasn't supportive of it. In Hudbay's case, this support came in the form of communication from our CEO supporting the program and encouraging its use. In order to get this support, we provided an overview of the platform, where we currently sat from a risk perspective, and what we were hoping to achieve out of the platform. Because of our previous engagements, just the general phishing tests and the reduction in phish-prone users due to just increased communication, we were able to show a reduction in risk prior to implementing the formal program in 2019, and where we could see further improvement in the future. Depending on your organization or others, This support may come from different levels, but in the end, it requires persuasion, negotiation, diplomacy. It was a noticeable difference with senior leadership support. That adoption and acceptance of the program was smoother, even from when we did a couple proof of concepts and just some initial example training sent out to get feedback on various platforms. The bottom of this slide has just a quick graph on kind of the as is and the to be's on what specific employee behaviors you're looking for. As usual, green is better, so that's where you want your employees and users and coworkers' behaviors to lie. The focus on physical safety. Mining and other manufacturing, industrial type organizations, we have to place an immense amount of resources and focus into the physical safety of employees, and that's just due to the nature of the business. Rightly so, there are entire departments devoted to the health and safety of our coworkers. This can have the effect that training courses on less tangible topics like IT security can be seen as a waste of time or not as important, or that the time could be better spent on something real. And this was challenging for Hudbay. It needs to be communicated that IT security awareness training can accent other traditional health and safety practices. In the same way that an employee takes a course in say how to operate a forklift safely, with the intent to protect both themselves, others, equipment. An IT security course provides similar protections in a digital world, providing relatable examples to managers, employees. It reduces the friction in adoption. Other examples, could include most businesses have a process for reporting unsafe workplace conditions. And this can be related to reporting suspicious emails, files, systems, or how we need to assess an area prior to safely beginning work, to critically reviewing an email sent to ensure it is both legitimate and safe to be opening. And as the slide says, while ultimately the physical safety of our people is the most important, the safety of our data, systems, and networks needs to be ensured as well. And it is to the point occasionally where some of that physical safety is relying on the technical, the IT side of it, with so many physical operations being ran by IT or OT infrastructure. Competing time commitments. Everyone in an organization has accountabilities and time commitments that need to be done on an ongoing basis. Whether these commitments are daily, weekly, monthly, adding more non-work in quotation marks is a difficult process requiring tact and communication. This was an area where there were differing opinions from the various business unit leaders, and I made a mistake in assuming that another 5 minutes of an employee's time would not be a big deal. The initial ask from myself was that all employees will do 5 minutes a month of IT security training on your various topics, your phishing, password security, wireless security, those ideas. And the responses were almost very similar to the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. One business unit leader thought it was far too much, another too little, and the last one just right. With a larger security team or someone else or department managing the program, it could potentially have been possible to accommodate these 3 different requests or multiple different requests. But with our relatively lean operation, it wasn't an option. It wasn't possible to go much lower than that 5-minute threshold, or you're severely limiting the content you can provide and the various topics you can cover. Another suggestion was to only do the training once per quarter or once per year, at potentially longer lengths then. But this wasn't ideal either. Frequent shorter training has been shown to be more effective, and we always wanted to keep these IT security topics front of mind for as many people as possible. Another consideration in this area was developing useful metrics for the program. It would have been difficult to compare progress or value when some users are tested less or more frequently with others, or with differing content levels. If the time allowed, it could potentially provide some evidence to commit to one direction or another, but that's not the approach that Hudbay wanted to take. So in the end, it was plenty of conversations, but eventually we came to the consensus that shorter and more frequent training would be ideal. This was in part to do with some increased focus on the work from home, the environment we're currently in. So it was a kind of a disruption in that area to help facilitate this. Next area would be kind of a why me from the employee. Even after our program was planned, implemented, we rolled out, a common criticism that I heard was that it doesn't affect or apply to me, me being the employee or the coworker, the manager. This was generally addressed at the individual level as far as our implementation went, but could have been communicated on a company-wide scale as well. The explanation that even though you might not have what the attacker or malicious actor is after, but you can still be a stepping stone for them to get what they want. This is commonly referred to as lateral movement. Real world examples, like an attacker compromising an account in the geology area, which is then used to exploit an HR representative and pivot to a system in accounting to potentially change direct deposit details. It can definitely help reduce objections. In our businesses, or mining, manufacturing, industrial particular, there is a focus on the industrial control networks as well. These networks and systems that control the physical process in our plants and operations. A control technician may not think that they would be a likely target, but communicating that the systems they have access to and what a malicious actor could do with those resources, anything from disruption of production to physical damage of equipment and machinery, and at the worst case scenario, loss of life, can be a convincing argument for additional training. And finally, the last kind of reason was why Hudbay, the organization in general. Why do we need to implement this? A common criticism was why would someone target Hudbay? We are a fairly large operation, but pale in size compared to many organizations in the world. These days, you can't hardly turn on the news without hearing about another security or data breach or ransomware somewhere in the world. And plenty of times these come from your smaller organizations, your small school districts or towns or private enterprises. And a lot of times it's these small organizations that do not have the resources to invest in more advanced technical solutions or develop compensating manual controls of policies, procedures. There's a small municipality in Manitoba in Canada that has had one of its systems compromised through a malicious email. The attackers didn't do anything initially, which was quite patient of them. But they waited until an upcoming holiday week when they knew no one was going to be in the office. It was then that they slowly started making payments out of their accounting software to fraudulent organizations, eventually totaling over $500,000 before anyone noticed. And losses of these size would be generally material to a lot of many organizations, never mind a relatively small municipality. It's these kind of examples that show why, or the argument for implementing these when there's objections. Another common argument I use or see when confronted with the why Hudbay is that everyone needs a training ground or a playground. Malicious actors don't just start in the big leagues targeting the big well-known companies. They don't exploit the large targets without first practicing and perfecting their crafts somewhere where they might not be noticed, or potentially where the rewards might not be as high, but the risks are less. And finally, vendor management is a growing area of security concern these days, which ties into IT security training as well. You or your company may not be the ultimate target, but by leveraging a trusted business relationship, the attackers can get access to a vendor's system. It may not have monetary implications for you or your organization, but it could have damaging reputational issues, which can sometimes be just as bad. Finally, I'll just quickly go through who Hudbay decided to go with, and in no way trying to sell you on them, but a couple points that you may look for if you're choosing your own solution. There's many vendors in the space, and it's fairly easy, as I said, to grow your own solution as well if you want. Hudbay went with InfoSec IQ for our phish testing and training platform. A couple of the points, they manage and create all their content. It's not licensed from third parties, so there's some consistency in the messaging. The courses don't vary hugely from each other. There's generally a consistent theme. Currently, they have over 700 various training resources, videos, interactive modules, assessments, posters, emails, that kind of idea. We're able to sync, we're able to sync our users from various on-premise directories to keep a consistent and current list of users. And then they have an open API, which you can use to bring stats and reporting into other platforms. One use that we're currently looking at is integrating it with our endpoint protection software, so that on an incident, or when an incident occurs, we're able to capture that through the endpoint protection API, and then pass that into the training platform to immediately sign the user up for potential remediative training or a lesson or something similar. And with October being Cybersecurity Awareness Month, InfoSec IQ and most of the other vendors, they do release a lot of free kits and tools to help, say, kick off a platform. So I'd encourage everyone to, if you don't have a platform, to maybe look at these Cybersecurity Awareness Month kits and potentially leverage one to jumpstart your own program. With that, I'd like to thank you for all taking the time to listen and go into any questions if there are any.
I see there's a question here from Sergio. How was the 5 minutes per month training implemented? What educational materials were used? Is it mandatory?
To begin with, our program is not mandatory. We are tracking engagement to see whether it's something that we need to make mandatory or not. Currently, we're trending between roughly 60, low 60s, 60 to 65% of our employees taking the non-mandatory training a month, and we think that's that's a direct result of the communications that we've gone through with right from the CEO to managers and the employees themselves. The 5 minutes a month is typically 1 or 2 modules focused on a specific topic, and coming from like our implementation of InfoSec, everything, all the modules and trainings are split up into either core behaviors or your phishing topics, your malware. So we focus on one topic a month, and then it's, as I said, it's either 1 or 2 modules. Typically a video type portion if it's available, and then kind of an interactive small assessment type module as well.
Great, and I see we got another question from Nathan. Can you give more details on how you measure the effectiveness?
Currently, as part of the platform, we do keep running the continual phishing tests. So a part of the platform is we send out 3 fake, phishing test emails to a user per month. And these fall into your various templates of renew your Netflix account, right up to taking taking information from our company directory, which we have available, and implementing that into the phishing templates to simulate a business email compromise type situation where our CEO is sending an email asking for help and to respond. And there's a lot of tells in these emails that people should be aware of, and that's what the training part of things go through. But so we have consistent stats on how our users engage with these emails, whether they're just opening them, which isn't typically the end of the world, down to whether they're replying or clicking on links or entering usernames and passwords. So that's our primary metric that we're using to gauge. We do keep a running tally of security incidents in this general area, the incidents potentially caused by users. I have seen a downtrend in that over the last year or so. And the other one is gauging the amount of emails that are reported as spam or reported as phishing. And us being a G Suite customer, we are able to see a lot of those stats within our control panel. And those are, as I said in the presentation, those are trending upward. So user awareness, it is a little bit anecdotal, and it is a little bit filling that technical control. So those are the best metrics that we can come up with, but we feel that it is making a measurable difference in our overall security posture.
Thank you, Ian. And one last question: any major difference between the number of full-time employees who fall for phishing attacks versus contractors?
No, I wouldn't. That is not something we track. The platform itself relies on us having a user account, so in our domain. So it does depend a bit on the level of contractor. We have plenty of contractors that wouldn't be a part of our computer system, and then wouldn't be part of the platform at this point. So I guess, yeah, in summary, no, I can't make any difference between those two areas.